Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and on today's video I have a good one for you because I've been excited for this shoe for quite a while, and I saw this shoe at TRE in November of 2024 and I had to wait 7 months to get my hands on it and actually take it for a run, but now it's here and I gotta tell you, it's a pretty good shoe. Guys, this is a new SKECHERS AERO BURST. Let's get into it. First of all, I just want to say thanks to SKECHERS. They were good enough to send me this pair of the AERO BURST for the purpose of review. However, they haven't told me what to say. They don't have any editorial privileges, and all the thoughts and opinions are my own. With that said, you're going to be able to pick up a pair of the SKECHERS AERO BURST for $150. And of course, I'll place a link in the show notes below in case you want to pick up a pair for yourself. Now, first of all, you may be wondering why was I so excited about the SKECHERS AERO BURST? And ultimately, it's because of how it looks. Like, this really just tickles something in my brain. I just think this is a beautiful shoe. I like the color, I like the shape of the midsole. It just looks really good to me. And it's different from what SKECHERS has done in the past. Like, this is a real departure from some shoes from SKECHERS that may have been a little boring. Who am I kidding? Some SKECHERS shoes are quite boring. Now, obviously I'm not talking about the Razor 5 because this is probably the most exciting shoe you've ever seen. Other shoes in the SKECHERS line just haven't been exciting. But that all ends with the Aero line. Now, there are a couple of shoes in the Aero line. We have the Aero Spark as their daily trainer, and we have the Aero Tempo as their tempo or race day shoe. But today we're talking about the AERO BURST. This is their max cushion daily trainer. And it's max cushion because we have 42 in the heel, 36 in the forefoot for a 6mm drop. Now, SKECHERS claims that in a US men's size 9, the AERO BURST will tip the scale at 10.65 ounces or 305 grams. However, in my size, a US men's size 12, it'll tip the scale at 12.9 ounces or 367 grams. And yes, you heard me right, I am wearing a US men's size 12 in the SKECHERS AERO BURST. In fact, typically, I do find that SKECHERS just runs a little long. By dropping down to a size 12, I find they just fit perfectly. So if you haven't run in SKECHERS before, yeah, I don't know. It's going to depend on your foot shape, your foot size. But if you have a low volume, fairly narrow foot like me, yeah, you might have to size down just a bit. So let's start at the top and work our way down. And I want to hold this up and I want you to pay close attention to the padding around this heel collar because it's not over the top. In fact, I would say it's actually fairly minimal. And I hate it when these max cushion daily trainers just stuff so much padding into the heel collar because it's really not needed. And I think the AERO BURST is actually doing a pretty good job with giving me all the padding I need without the padding that I don't need. The heel counter on the AERO BURST is nice and rigid. I didn't experience any issues with heel slip there. And then there is, I guess there's a slight flare here on the back, but I don't know, maybe not. Anyway, you're not going to have any trouble putting your foot into the AERO BURST ultimately because this stiff heel counter right on the back means you can pretty much just step into it. The AERO BURST is using a breathable engineered mesh upper. It's fairly rough to touch and it is quite thick, but I can still see kind of light coming from inside the shoe, so it's not that thick. I'm going to say this is going to be more breathable than every other shoe in its class. Like when we compare it to other max cushion daily trainers, this upper is definitely going to breathe a little more. In fact, just by touching it and looking at it, I'm going to say that this upper reminds me of kind of like a race day upper on a shoe, just there's more of it. It's thicker. It's actually quite nice and it does the job well. Keeping in line with the minimal padding around the heel collar, we have the tongue. And the tongue is pretty much the same. It's padded, it's max cushion padded, but not over the top. It's padded enough to give you that protection that you want from locking down those laces. You're not going to get any lace bite. Again, it's not like stuff to the extreme. It does what it's designed to do. Now, there is no lace loop here on the front of the tongue, but this tongue is gusseted here on the medial side, not on the lateral side. And I didn't experience any issues with the tongue moving around. So yeah. It's a tongue. As far as overlays go, well, there aren't that many overlays. Of course, we got the S here on the medial and the lateral side. Got a fairly rigid underlay coming around the toe bumper. And again, that's just keeping that upper off your foot. But the upper itself is very structured. So this engineered mesh does have a lot of structure to it. The upper stands up beautifully. And then of course, we've got just a little more reinforcement coming along the eyelet chain. It's actually very difficult to see just because of the color, but it's there. Here on the heel, we have some more overlays, which I think this is just a styling choice. It's a little padded right here. Of course, that's not giving you any extra padding because the padding's on the outside of the shoe. And generally speaking, your foot's on the inside, but it looks pretty good. Oh, and we do have those little reflective pieces here on the toes. Now, as far as fit goes, I found it to be fairly roomy in the toe box. I had no issues with it feeling constricted. Sometimes when shoes are fairly narrow, I feel the upper on my pinky toe, and I didn't have that on these. That said, I don't think the regular version is wide foot friendly, but if you don't need a wide shoe and yet your feet are just maybe slightly wider, then I think these are going to work just fine for you. Now, a lot of questions I get when I review SKECHERS shoes is the arch fit insert, and I'm just going to pull this out right now, and I will not be putting it back in on camera because it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of tacky on the bottom, so it's a bit of a challenge to put back in. But this is the arch fit insert, and basically it just gives you a little arch support here on your arch, which is totally fine unless I think you have flat feet. And I think the people with flat feet or low arches, they are really going to struggle with it, but it is removable and you could put in another insert that might work better for you. For me, I'm actually quite a fan of the arch fit insert. I think it just feels good in the shoe, and I've got nothing negative to say about it. But of course, individual results may vary. Coming down to the midsole, which is my favorite part of this shoe. I mean, at least the shape of it is my favorite part. But also the midsole compound isn't too shabby. They're using Hyperburst Ice, and that's a supercritical foam that feels really good underfoot, and it's quite responsive. Now, in the forefoot, Skechers is also including a carbon-infused H-plate, and that is going to contribute to some forefoot stability and give you a little punchy toe off. Now, keep in mind, this is not going to feel like a carbon-plated racer. Basically, with a full-length carbon fiber plate, you're kind of using a leather action to kind of spring you forward. That is not how this shoe feels. In fact, I've got to say that if I wasn't told that there was a carbon-infused H-plate in the Aero Burst, I wouldn't notice it by how it feels on the run. But it's there, and it's probably contributing to that stable ride. And of course, maybe giving me a little extra pop on toe off. I'm not sure. If we take a look at the outsole, yeah, Skechers again is partnering with Goodyear, so we've got a good amount of coverage of Goodyear rubber, and it is standing up very well on my forefoot. On my heel, which is generally where I touch down first, I'm seeing a little bit of wear. I don't know, maybe on the Aero Burst too, Skechers could extend that Goodyear rubber out just a couple millimeters more, because I am seeing that I am touching down on this Hyperburst Ice midsole just on the edge. But I suppose that's just me. I mean, they can't just make these changes for one person. But either way, I don't think that is going to negatively affect how long this shoe is going to last. This Goodyear rubber compound is going to be very durable. And yeah, if you want to run in this shoe for 400, 500 miles, I don't see why you couldn't. Oh, and like all Skechers shoes, almost, it's vegan. It's made with vegan materials, has the seal of acceptance from the American Podiatric Medical Association, so it's really good for your feet. And of course, it is machine washable. And if that doesn't sound amazing to you, then know that most running shoes are not machine washable, but this is. Bung it in the washing machine, it's going to come out nice and clean. So let's talk about ride. And look, this is a max cushion daily trainer. It is going to be protective, and it does feel protective. I mean, with 42 millimeters in the heel, yeah, it's going to be pretty protective. But it's also not unresponsive. This Hyperburst Ice is actually a very responsive foam. And I have reached for this shoe time and time again during my testing phase. In fact, my first run in this shoe, I took it out of the box and immediately went out for 17 miles. And the shoe performed like an absolute champ. You know, just because it does have that carbon-infused H-plate up on the forefoot, this isn't a speed shoe. This is just like every other max cushion daily trainer. It's going to be good for those easy runs, those long runs, those runs that you do every day. You're just looking for a little extra protection for your body. The Aero Burst slots nicely into that niche. But look, this segment of the market is saturated. And if you are looking at a pair of the Skechers Aero Burst, then I think you might also want to consider the Hoka Clifton 10. Now, the Clifton 10 is $150, same price as the Aero Burst. We have 44, 34 for an 8mm drop, and in my size, the Clifton 10 tips the scale at 333 grams. So the Clifton 10 is 34 grams less in my size than the Aero Burst. Next up, I think we should look at the Nike Vomero 18. Again, the Vomero 18 costs $150. The Vomero has 46, 36 for a 10mm drop, and in my size, it tips the scale at 384 grams. So 17 grams heavier than my size in the Aero Burst. And finally, you might be thinking about the Brooks Coast Max. Now, Brooks Coast Max has 39 in the heel, 33 in the forefoot for a 6mm drop. It will also cost $150, the same price. And in my size, tips the scale at 374 grams. So it weighs 7 grams more than my size in the Aero Burst. However, even though I have been comparing the Skechers Aero Burst to these other $150 shoes, I really think that the Aero Burst is more comparable to some more premium shoes. Because out of those shoes that I showed you as comparables, I would choose the Aero Burst every single time. And because of that, I think the $150 price point of the Aero Burst is extremely competitive. So guys, now it's your turn. I want to hear from you. Have you run in any Skechers running shoes? Are you thinking of picking up a pair of the Skechers Aero Burst? Drop a comment and let me know. But for now, it's Matt B. This has been my review of the new Skechers Aero Burst. Be kind, be happy, run well. See you in a couple of days.